Hey y'all, it's your girl Sia, and I'm back with another video. Y'all, today is like my Friday. Sorta, kinda, right? I still have a regular work week. But obviously Thursdays, especially when I'm during the off season, I'm able to work from home. I'm usually able to work from home whenever I need to, just because that's the part of my quote unquote like compensation package. I have a kiddo, so the job has to be a little bit flexible for me if necessary. Last year I will say that I probably worked more from home than anything, especially during this time because I was so bored out of my mind. Now I will say that, I actually don't mind being in the office a little bit more, just cuz. Um, but I'm still, it's very interesting times that is going on, and I don't know. Those of you guys who watched me yesterday, you guys know that I went to my first winter concert as a mama, right? And let me tell you guys something. I think kids are cute. So I think in that aspect it helped me because I got to look at all the little kids, all the different expressions, and really at least show my presence at the school. Just because as my daughter gets older, our presence is not, we're not required. They don't even do anything for us parents to really be there outside of like parent teacher conference, and this was the first year they've ever done a winter concert, right? So you've got to understand something. I've not had a real reason to be at the school, unless my daughter says, hey, look, can you go on this field trip with me? And usually how I operate, you guys, I'm pretty picky. I'm not riding on no bus. Okay, I'm not riding with no kids. I tell you guys this all the time. I do not like kids. I will respect a child because they're a child and I'm an adult. And so I just feel like that's kind of like my role, right? As an adult, I should always do what's right by a child, if that makes sense. But I personally do not like children. Okay, so you're not going to catch me on a bus with a bunch of kids. Like, if I got a car, I'm taking the fucking car. Right? That's just where we're at with that. If I can Uber, I'm Ubering. Okay, I'm not finna be doing. I don't do kids. Okay, I'm too grown for that shit. Um, and let me be clear, if I was to ever have another, like, obviously they're my children, so it's different, right? But even with my child, right, I don't always like the child. I love the child. That's different. I don't always like her. And I can genuinely say that, right? And that's rare, right? Because my daughter is actually pretty cool. But there are times where I just, I don't particularly, I'm not a fan. Okay. Now, with that being said, I'm in this school. I'm already got a bit of a hate. I don't really like the school. Okay. I don't like it. I don't think my daughter should be there. I am very against, and I have been very vocal about her being in this school. Okay. The school is very poorly funded, in my opinion. I think because you have a high Hispanic rate, that they do keep it somewhat funded, if that makes sense, where it makes sense, meaning that the children are learning things like tech. So when it comes down to having technology and computers and iPads and all that stuff, like they got all that, right? When it comes to the quote unquote future, right? They definitely have the stuff there in that school for these children, right? They've got the different, like all different courses. When I'm actually pretty shocked sometimes when my daughter talks about the different classes she takes, because the school doesn't even look like it's big enough to do those things, okay, in my opinion. um this is just my opinion, y'all. And apparently her school goes all the way up to like, I believe it's the ninth grade or eighth grade, which is weird because, like I said, these kids get there, they start as babies, and then they just grow up there, you know. And it's cool, but it's not like, I don't know. Okay, I got mixed feelings. Well, I don't really have mixed feelings. I'm letting y'all know I don't like the school. Okay, but it could be worse. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, I get into this school and I'm starting. I got my heels on, I had my little jacket on, I got like 20 million jackets, I realized. And I had one of my jackets on that made me look real fly, right? I was just cute yesterday. And I show up and I noticed like one of the girls was complaining. First of all, I get to the door and I asked the lady, I said, "Hey, look, where's your auditorium?" And she answered my question, but I noticed, let me tell you, I don't know what it is about Colorado, but some people, okay, of a certain type, okay, are very, like, they're hesitant to speak to black people, or at least me. And I know when I'm being very respectful. Okay, these days I don't have much to be disrespectful about. And so I try to meet everyone now with a smile, right? Because I'm really happy in real life, so I can just be like, "Hey, can you point me in the direction of the auditorium?" Like, I'm not being rude, I don't need to know your name, but can you point me in the right direction, right? And you could tell she had this level of animosity. And part of that, let me be clear, I understand I'm a woman. I understand that I carry myself very well. I understand that I'm pretty, but I never understand how women treat me sometimes. I just don't get it. Cause I'm like, girl, please. Like, like, let me be clear. Like, I know who I am, and this is a little bit of vanity, but it's the truth. I know who I am, so why are you fronting? Like, why be like that when in any size up and lineup, honey, I'm topping you times 10. Stop it. Like, it's obvious. Just get with it and just be, kind. I don't understand women in the hate because that ain't my problem. You look the way you do, and if you want tips, I don't mind giving them. Right? I just don't hate on me because I'm beautiful. Like, that shit's crazy. That shit is whoa. Like, it's backwards. It is so strange to me because a lot of times I'm going up to these women with a clear conscience. Like, I'm not even thinking about my looks. I mean, I think about my looks when I get up in the morning, right? And I ensure, like, if I knew I was going to this event, and I know that I'm representing my daughter, right? So I know that, yes, I'm gonna show up and look good. I'm gonna look like I have my life put together. You damn right, because I'm putting myself on for the world to see, right? So they gotta know that I am who I am. Therefore, they don't get me confused with everybody else. You see what I'm saying? I'm not the one. Like, I don't got time for all that. I don't know. I was just raised differently. Okay. And so, and I don't have like 20 kids. That's a difference. Okay. That's like, I get if I was run down with children, maybe I wouldn't care so much about my image in that regards, but I only got one. So my image, in my opinion, because it is important to me, it's important in every aspect, right? So not only did I show up to work in a professional setting looking good, I was able to show up to my daughter's school looking good. That was important for me, right? So I get there. The auditorium is super small. It's the size of maybe a classroom and a half. Like, it's really tiny. Okay. Maybe, nah, their classrooms are pretty big. So I would say a classroom and a half, right? If you're looking at a one bedroom, look at a one bedroom maybe times two and a half, right? So think of a class and a half. That's what you're looking at in size, right? Everybody, I got there early because I already know if the parking is crazy and it's difficult to find parking, it may be difficult to find a seat. And because I was in heels, I'm not standing. So I'm going to leave early. I'm going to catch the early scene as much as I dreaded it, y'all, just to be able to have a seat so I can watch my daughter in comfortability, kinda. Okay. So I get there and there's these people on the walls, right? And this woman complaining. She's like, oh my God, it's so small. They don't have any seats, yada, yada, yada. So I walk through and I'm realizing there are seats open. It's just that folks don't understand, if you're going to sit in the middle, why not go all the way to the middle? Especially in a place where you know that it's small as shit, right? And so what tends to happen is you got families sprinkled over here and you got people sprinkled over here, but nobody thinks, hey, maybe we should scoot in so people on the outside can sit down, right? That's never the conversation. And when you're dealing with Mexicans, let me be clear, there's a ton of them. Okay, and they take over the building, and in this case, they can, because that's all that's there, right? So they take over the building as if it's their own. They could care less about whoever's standing on the sideline. So obviously, I was a bit like, ugh, I gotta weed through this. But I was able to find a seat in the front row. And I was able to sit down, and that was cool. But I remember walking to my seat and everybody's just kind of looking at me like, whoa, because I'm not the typical black mom that you see up there, which I realize. And that's cool, whatever. As long as I got a seat and I'm sitting down and nobody's bothering me, I'm good. The little kids came out, which was cute. Okay. I remember when my daughter was that age and she was at this very same school and she did not have the same opportunity. So it was really cool to see the little babies come out, right? And the parents showed out with these little kids, boy. These little girls had on these dresses. I'm gonna tell you now, the little kids were the best dressed out of all the children there. So the children that were below kindergarten and those in kindergarten, right? They were the best dressed of all the children that have ever performed at that school, including mine. Okay. Them children were dressed to the T. Okay. But it was bizarre to me because they got parents, right, that are also in, with my daughter's grades or whatever. And them kids didn't look the same. Okay, so I don't know what was going on there. And because I did not have control over my daughter's outfit, hey, that's what she chose to wear. My daughter definitely did try, right? I just feel like having a mom to come clean it up and make it look, perfect almost. That's important to me. And it sucks that I can't be there for her in that way. But then again, I feel like my daughter does her own thing. So even if I was to spruce her up and make her look real, real, real fancy, she'll find a way to just, throw the outfit off a little bit. That's just who she is right now. And that's okay. She's a kid. That's what that's what she's supposed to do. Just like all the other little kids. Um, I will say this, the title of this video, now let's bring it back full circle, is called Don't Let Them See You Sweat. And I really feel like there's a valuable lesson in this, and I really hope that I can express this in the best way possible, right? Again, I'm not here to sugarcoat things. I'm not here to make you feel better about yourself. However, I am here to share what I know, what works for me, what is and true for me, right? Because I feel like these are universal principles, like I keep saying, that really would help people across the board if they learned how to make it work for them and or understand it and or see things from a certain point of view, right? So what's going on? My daughter, first of all, the little kids were boo. All the kids were boo. I would say that my daughter's grade was the best grade because they're old enough to pronounce the words. The little babies, they were just cute and they really tried. And what was interesting is they gave the little kids these bells, right? And the little kids, you could tell they were interested because of the bells. Now, it was so funny because there was this little boy, and I love how he was. Whoever raised him, shout out to his daddy, okay? Because a little boy's in this choir, and in my head, I was singing amongst boys my age, but I really felt like I could be wrong in some areas, but I do feel like a lot of the concerts we were able to sign up for. And I also recognize that us children at a certain age, we were a little bit more further advanced in certain areas than the children are today. Okay. Um, so I could have sworn that was something we chose. Like that was an extracurricular activity. I could be wrong, right? Because I remember my fourth grade teacher, I was in a choir with her and she was dope, right? We was good, okay? But we were, at least I thought, right? Because I'm sure my parents probably felt the same way that I feel now, right? In terms of the quality, okay? But we did our best, right? We had a teacher who that was part of her curriculum or whatever, and she made us do it. But I think for the most part, chorus or choir is something I always signed up for. But again, I could be wrong because this has been a long time ago, right? I say it like I'm real old, but it's the truth. Um, the little boy is in this choir, right? And all the kids are around him, and you're thinking, well, they're all good because they're all together, right? And they're singing in front of their parents. So it really shouldn't be like that scary, really, because they're all doing it together, right? And they're having fun doing it. This little boy, I promise y'all, he frowned. He started doing it. He only got about 10, maybe a song in before he started crying. The little boy was like, I'm not trying to be up here. Like you could see it all over his face. Like, if you don't get me off this little thing, I'm here. I did it. I don't like it. Okay. The little boy was not happy. He was too cute. He did not like cause a scene or nothing, but I mean, his face went from all smiles to straight frown. So you saw how miserable the kid was. Like, oh, heck no. Y'all got me up here singing and shaking a bell. The kid was not having it, man. And so somebody noticed because it was obvious the kid was in the front row. And again, he didn't cry. Shout out to him. But you could see that frown, like, oh no, this is not what I thought it was going to be, or whatever, right? So they pull the little kid down. It was super cute, super funny. And then they pull him down. He's fine. He's like, look, I did not want to be on that stage singing no damn song, shaking no bells. Shout out to the little kid, right? Because he had the right idea, at least in my mind, okay? Little kids go, then my daughter gets up there and they start singing. I'm trying to be the supportive mom, screaming her name, woo, go kid, woo, right? But doing it in a way where I'm not too obvious, but I'm obvious, right? So she can hear me. She knows I'm there. She knows where to find me, all of that, right? Recording the kid every song. I didn't want to do the full song because it's black girl. So this is the thing: a black family comes and sits right next to me, and I'm thinking it's probably because we the raisins in the rice bowl, right? We the only ones here. I get it. You want to sit next to me, but I'm thinking we really don't fit next to each other. We fit in terms of skin color. We do not fit in terms of status. Okay. So they sitting right next to me, and the woman sat right next to me, and she was making me feel like every time I record, she looking at my phone like, girl, you better not be getting me. You could tell like it was a problem, or at least she made it feel like it was a problem, or maybe I perceived it as a problem, but I don't freaking know. I just know the girl kept looking at me and I just acted like I couldn't see her because I'm not really trying to talk to you. I don't care that your kid goes to the school unless we're fighting against crime together. There is no reason for me to be associative to you outside of smile, nod, and get out your way when you trying to get somewhere, right? So I'm sitting there zooming in, trying to capture my baby. And unfortunately, I'm thinking, well, she's little. She should be in the front, but she's in the front. You could barely see her. And she's way on the other side. So I don't know what I was doing, y'all. I'm zooming in. I'm only getting like half of the songs. I'm not trying to piss the lady off who's sitting next to me, but I'm also like, bitch, I need to be able to record my kid, regardless of how you feel, right? If you don't want to get in the camera, scoot over, right? Scoot, right? I'm not worried about you, but also showing that I'm not going to record the whole song just because I don't particularly care. I just want the memory, right? Next thing you know, my daughter starts crying. Oh, well, she turns around. She says something. You can see it on camera. It's all recorded. Little boy says something back. She tries to get back into her song. Next thing you know, she turns back around. She says something. The little boy says something back. She turns around, tries to get back into the song. And this goes on for a little bit until my daughter, next thing you know, her eyes start watering, right? And they watering. I'm like, oh. And I'm thinking, is she crying? Because she went from smiling to now I see in the camera because I'm zoomed in that something's going on. And next thing you know, my daughter's crying. So, I'm ready to jump over tables. So I'm like, oh, hell no. What the fuck is going on? Like, this is a freaking concert, and you kids are over here bickering back and forth. First of all, he's a little boy. This is why I keep trying to tell my daughter, the little boys like you, but the behavior of the little boys are not an excuse. Meaning that I'm not going to sit here and tell my kid that abuse from a little boy is acceptable. No, 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 no. I don't give a damn if he likes her or not. His parents should be teaching him the proper way to like a girl, right? Because when she gets older, if he was to do the same shit, that shit ain't flying. So why am I going to teach her now that, hey, that shit's acceptable, knowing damn well she ain't going to like that shit when she gets older? Okay. So what was going on is my daughter starts crying. I'm thinking, okay, kid, pull it together. You're in a freaking concert. Like, I don't give a damn. He's not hitting you. And I got my eyes, I'm piercing through the goddamn veil at this little boy, right? Because I don't know where the fuck your parents are, but I know you're dealing you behind my little girl, and she looking at you some type of way, and she crying. And now you and I got beef because I don't know what the fuck is going on, right? So I'm really piercing at him, and he looking at me all nervous, like, yeah, you better leave my daughter alone, because I will get up in the middle of this shit and I will pull both of y'all little kids over and figure out what's going on. Like, I'm really not playing, right? And I was on the edge of my seat trying so hard not to be a captain save a hoe, right? Because that's not my job in that position. That is her job to figure it out, right? So, but I'm telling her, pull it together. I'm like, what's going on? Pull it, smile. I start smiling, smile. I'm telling her, smile, knock that shit off, basically, and smile, right? And I'm getting agitated because, little girl, this is not the time or the place to be all up in your tears, right? And I know people are like, oh, that's hard on her. She's 10. No, that ain't hard on her, because that's real life. This ain't the time or the place to start crying and being in your bag about shit that's going on unless your safety or whatever is being jeopardized. And if it is not, little girl, you better pull it together and save face and deal with it after the fact. That's how you deal with business, right? Not in the middle of your shit when it's your time to shine and you over here crying. Get the fuck out of here, right? And this is where a lot of people miss the mark. They forget that maybe people aren't taught this shit, but there's a time and a place for your tears, right? And this is not being hard on the little girl. It's teaching her this ain't the time or the place. And or if you're going to deal with it now, then you suck it up and you deal with it now. You see what I'm saying? Like, ain't no tears behind this shit. You ain't nobody's victim. But my daughter gets angry, and I know she do. I know deep down inside that's what them tears. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what them tears were, is anger. Like, the little boy keeps fucking with me, and I told him leave me the hell alone, and keeps doing it. And in my mind, I'm like, girl, you more patient than me, because I'd have been turned around and socked his ass. I'd have just elbowed him one good time. Oops, my bad. I'm so sorry. I would have yawned or something. I'd have found a way to hit that little boy, knock him off the bleacher or something. I would have found a way. See, I'm different, but I'm raising a good little girl. So I'm trying to, teach her the right way. But she already knew what type of time it was. She said, Mom, I was ready to give him a little knuckle sandwich. I said, you should have, maybe not in the middle of the concert, but, in the hallway. Oops, my bad. Some get the little boy back. That's why they keep fucking with you. But no offense, it's the parents that are teaching them that are not teaching them this behavior is not okay. It is not okay for a little boy to be bullying a little girl, period. I don't give a damn what the reason is for. And it's unfortunate that we use these lines like, oh, well, he likes her. So the fuck what? I'm sure that that's what that is, 100%. I tell my daughter that all the time. That's no excuse. That doesn't make the behavior okay. It's not cute because I'm ready to fuck the little boy up, and guess who will win in that manner? I will. You see what I'm saying? Y'all, they put me in a position where I'm ready to kill these little kids behind my kid. They lucky I got control. For real. I don't do badass little kids. And no offense, how I see it is the adults should be more aware of shit like that. Like y'all, we're in a different time and age. There's no reason these little boys should be putting their hands, their body parts, or anything of that nature on a child or a little girl or her clothing or anything. So what was going on is a little boy, my daughter wore this long dress, right? And it was a long dress. Let me tell you, my daughter showed out. Okay, she did her thing in terms of what she chose to wear that to that event, okay? And she was super dolled up. She could have got down with them little kids, had her shirt, her little sweater was inside out and falling off her shoulder. So it looked kind of, not put together, right? But anywho, she did her thing. She tried, right? And the little boy, her dress, it was beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's just a little bit too big. It's very, in my opinion, it's not tight enough. So it doesn't fit the same. It'll never fit the same because when your clothes are a little bit tighter and in the right spaces, it looks better. When they're not, now as a man, not so much. Like I'm not talking about men, I'm talking about for girls, right? In the right spots, right? And this dress was one of those dresses where the dress should have went in more. It wasn't tailored to my daughter. It's big. I'm assuming they're expecting her to grow into it. So she wore this dress and it's got this long, beautiful tail, very beautiful dress. Don't get it twisted. And the little boy apparently kept stepping on her tail. And in her mind, I don't know what was said or what happened or what transpired, but I said, well, maybe he was doing it on accident. Like it was long. Like I saw how long the tail was. So I could only imagine a little boy who's the same age, like not really meaning to step on her tail, but keeps doing it because he's naturally in her space because of what they're doing. And she goes, no, mom, they're doing it. He's doing it on purpose. He even pulled at her or whatever. He's doing it on purpose. And she was upset. So that's why she was crying, because she couldn't really get him to stop. And I'm sure it's partly because they were in a position where she could not get away from him. So what do you do in a situation that you cannot walk away from it, right? You're stuck dealing with it. You don't like it. You've asked the person to stop and they're not stopping. What do you do? For her, it's like, I'm gonna cry because I don't know how else to react outside of cry right now because I can't get this little kid to stop. Well, the good thing is people care about the child, right? So as she started crying, everybody's like, why is she crying? She's not crying like breaking down crying, but you could see the waterworks. I mean, they coming, right? Tears coming. And someone on that side of the room, because I was trying not to be Captain Sable, I don't want to call my child a hoe, but y'all get what I mean by that expression. Because she's not, right? But you get what I mean by that expression. I don't want to be the captain that comes in and saves the day, because again, she's got to learn how to deal with these things on her own, right? And sure enough, the people around her were calling him out, right? And saying, listen, it's him. He's the one messing with her, like just calling him out. But the concert was going, they were singing. These kids were all very quiet in their approach, but you could see it happening. And then eventually my daughter went back to singing and, back to her normal self. What I will say is this, okay? And what I told my daughter, because I understand I'm hard, right? But you got to understand that people do things, and when they see you react in a certain way, they will continue doing it because you've given them all of your power at that point. Meaning that the little boy is stepping on her tail, as long as he ain't bothering you and you can move. Why do you, like, in my opinion, as a little kid, that's the last thing I'm worried about. Now I understand she wanted to be pretty and elegant, but no. I know my kid, and I know that isn't really something that, in my opinion, she should have been worried about. And in my opinion, it's not something, unless he was stopping her from going, like trying to trip her or something. They're stop. These kids are not moving. They've been standing there for the what, 10, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes in the same spot. So it's like, girl, you be all right. And when he gets off, you hurry up and pick your skirt up. Now, is it the equivalent of someone stepping on your shoe? Yes, but I'm not going to give you that power over me, right? We're going to deal with this when we're off the scene, right? When we're walking through that hallway, right? And now we can talk face to face. And now I can have that conversation with you about stepping on my goddamn dress. You see what I'm saying? I'm not going to sit and break down and cry. That was the wrong response. And as her being 10, again, she doesn't know any better. It is my job to teach her, kiddo, if you're going to turn around and you're going to tell the little boy, quit stepping on your dress, listen. And he knows it bothers you because you just turned around and told him. If it were me, I'd have just moved my dress because the little boy was on a higher step than her. So that means your dress was on a step it had no business being on. What was the purpose? I didn't see the little boy stepping down. You know what I mean? So in that case, you pick up your tail. You don't drag it. You pick that shit up. I wouldn't even gave the little boy the option. The moment he stepped on my tail, I'd have picked that shit up and I would have been singing, and you wouldn't have had that option. Now, if you touch me, if you put your hands on me, that's a whole other conversation, right? Because now we can ramp up we can ramp it up. But in terms of my tail, I'm not gonna break down in tears, right? I'm not gonna ruin my day, right? I'm not going to allow you to have that much power and that much control over me, right? Because at the end of the day, I came here to laugh. Well, she didn't come here to laugh. She came there to sing. But I came here to have fun. And my daughter loves singing. So this is her time to shine. That's why she got dolled up in the first place. So why do all that to allow 2 seconds of interaction to affect that event? You're now seen as the kid that cried, and if you the only kid that see, that's why I'm trying to tell y'all, the only kid that cried, the only one. Now, I would much rather that than what I seen some of these fifth graders looking like, because I was very disappointed. I seen a lot of these kids grow up with my daughter, and when they were cute as babies, and then you look at them as they're getting older, and you're like, what the heck? Like certain things, you're like, oh, you going through life. Like it's unfortunate. Some of these kids, you could see it on them already, and they're babies. They're not babies, but they're they're young in comparison to me. So, teaching my daughter these things young, because understand that she is going to embark these situations all her life. And the younger she learns how to properly deal with them, and when I say properly, I meant that word. I know a lot of folks will be like, oh, well, she was crying because she was hurt. No, I don't give a damn. You better suck that shit up. That's what a lot of kids are like for real. Because the moment these kids see you crying, especially right now, they're still young. The moment they start figuring out how to manipulate each other, like they already do, but they're not as mean yet. So you get in high school, you think crying is going to work for you in front of everybody, and that's it. Little girl, you better, let me tell you, you better wisen up. So I'm not raising no dummy. That's the thing. She knows it, and deep down in her mind, you know what she told me? Okay, mom, like she gets it. I'm not raising her for today. I'm raising her for 20 years from now. When I give my daughter advice for a situation she's dealing with now, it's so that from 20 years from now, she don't get caught up in stupid shit because she don't know how to deal with certain situations. And that's the issue of a lot of young people today, is that they're not getting the proper education in terms of how to deal with everyday real life shit. I grew up in a household where I was middle class. I didn't have to want for anything. I didn't know what real life was until real life hit me. And I was upset with my parents because I felt like my parents didn't fully prepare me for life. So if you think that I'm going to ever allow mine to go unprepared, listen, she can make all the choices she wants, but they won't be because I did not teach her so. That karma will not be on my hands. You see what I'm saying? So every moment I get, every situation, every social, circumstance she goes through, I feel like it's my job. I'm not going to cater to you in the sense of your emotions, right? That shit is for the birds, right? Because little girls are very dramatic, right? She's very dramatic. And as a mom, I got to know, okay, kid, it's time to cut through that shit. Let's get to the problem. Let's solve it. And boom. So, granted, she did not like what the little boy, how he was treating her, but it's on you to understand that, like I said, there's ways of doing things. There's better ways of doing things. And when I told her, she said, "Okay, mama," she gets it. The little girl gets it. She's smart. She'll get it. But it's imperative that people in general, I had to learn this, right? This was a lesson I had to learn. Because people, I would be like, I guess my biggest thing that I've learned to take on lately, right, is not allowing people and what they say and do really impact me. Like, I may talk about it, right? It may irk my nerves for a second, but realistically, then people want to live on my mind. My mind be on, listen, the way that I think, my mind is on stuff that people really don't like it be everywhere. My mind is not on people unless I'm looking at a situation, unless I'm having to look back for a reflection, unless I'm having to look back to become wiser. That's it. And I had to realize, I could either keep getting mad about certain stuff or I can learn to just let it fly, right? Because ultimately, in my lifetime, I've learned that when people feel like they can make you mad, they're going to keep doing it. And they do it on purpose because it's they know that if they can push this button, you going to do X, Y, and Z. That's a power trip. That's a whole power trip. So why, if the goal is for you to be in full balance, why would you allow anyone to have power over you? I remember as a little girl, well, in my teens, I used to be so angry, right? Because I went through some things, right? And I used to fight, right? I was never the girl to start stuff. I went from being a girl that was raised that if somebody puts their hands on you, you hit them back, right? And that's how I maneuvered, to now I'm feeling like I'm getting bullied, right? So now I'm just ready, let's just solve this right now. Let's just fight and get it over with. That was my mentality, right? So I would take off on people because I was so angry, right? I had a lot of things I had to unpack and deal with as a teenager growing up. And I remember this lady saying part of what made me change, right? Because there was a lot of different events that took place that made me really change my thought process. But the first thing, and keep in mind, y'all, I don't got no sheet like that as an adult. Okay, so this stuff was teenage shit. And I remember telling her, what was going on. And I used to allow these girls, they were picking on me all the time. And I hated it. And I never understood why. Meanwhile, I was the girl that the girls picked on. Either girls really, really liked me as their friend. This was the thing. They either really liked me or they picked on me, and or they wanted to be associated with me because of who I was. You understand me? The boys loved me always. Like, it was always weird because the girls who were picking on me, they always used to think they were so much better than me. But guess what? The boy that they want me, right? Type shit. So it was always shit like that. And I used to get so mad at these girls for picking on me. I never understood it, right? And at that time, I didn't see it the way I see it now because I'm in the middle of it and I'm young. I don't know how to really deal with shit like that, right? And I remember being so ready to fight, right? And this was also a time period where I was learning self control. Let's put it that way. I was learning how to implement self control, right? So I really wanted to fight, but at times I really didn't want to fight. And the people who were in my life genuinely cared about me, right? So they didn't want to see me in that position, right? Because it could have been bad for me growing up, right? So I remember this lady talking to me and she was like, "Listen, if you're saying you don't like these girls, right?" And I would be like, "Yeah," and I'm talking my shit or whatever. She said, "Well, why would you want to go to jail for these girls?" And I remember thinking, "Huh?" She said, "Yeah, if you go to jail," and she really walks me through the thought process. She's like, if you go to jail, why would that be? So if you put your hands on them, what's the reason? Well, she going back to what she did. Okay. So you're saying you don't like these people. So why would you want to go to jail for people you say you don't like? Now I got all this stuff and I don't understand it. But what she's saying is, girl, you're saying you don't like these people. So you gonna allow them to get you so riled up, right? You giving them all of your power so they could live their life and then see you and you living in jail. You saying you don't like these people, but you're willing to do time for them. How does that work? And when she really hit me with it, like really broke it down, like you're in jail if you go to jail because you put your hands on somebody, right? This is what she said. Real talk. Like, you go to jail, you put your hands on somebody. What's the reason you're in jail? Because I put my hands on somebody. Is that the life you really want to live? Like, these were the conversations that were being had with me as a young girl. And I really had to start looking at things because of the people that were in my life that would constantly say things like that, right? And I remember, and again, I want to be clear, my self control, learning that I did have self control or even knowing what it was in my teenage years. So I would say about 15, 16, 17. Those were the years that I began to really exercise and or practice and or learn self control. So I was learning it through aggression, through physical aggression, right? Because that was the kind of environment I was in. But it took people to get me to see that I was really only hurting myself in the long run because while all these people were doing the things that they were doing, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So yes, were they bullying me? Yes. Did the people were they fully aware that they were bullying me? Yes. But at some point, I gotta learn that I can either keep fueling the fire or I can put the shit out. Right? I could say, okay, every time you pick at me, I'm gonna blow up. Right? I'm gonna just snap. Or I can choose to not allow it to affect me. And it's harder. The latter is harder. Okay, let me be very clear. Exercising emotional discipline when you know that you have every right to go off, that is very difficult to do. But it's a must. It's important that people learn how to do it because in those situations, those are some of your crucial moments, right? That can make or break your situation, your future, your life. So if I'm able to look at my situation and I'm able to look at it objectively despite what's going on and or how I feel, I'm more likely to make decisions that are going to be beneficial for me. So that's all I want to say on the matter, y'all. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. But let me tell you something. If you ever going through a situation where people are frustrating you and they're making you mad or whatever, don't let them see you sweat. I said what I said. I'm out. Peace.